we're talking about past, present, future, and it's a nice time to reflect on kind of the role of design in companies and organizations. And Fred, you may not remember this time. There was a time when designers were cast in these roles as like pixel pushers, and they were never happy because they were not involved early enough. They were just seen as, making things look pretty, and we used to have this term like putting lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. And so there was a lot of effort to make design have a seat at the table, and how do you demonstrate the strategic value of design, and how do you make everybody in a company care about design and user experience. And I think designers have made a lot of progress over the last several years. I think like the strategic value of design is pretty much undebatable these days. I think Apple kind of helped seal that too. And I'm reminded of this conversation I had with the founder of Quora, Adam D'Angelo, and I was sharing with him some of the things that we did at Google, and he paused for a moment and he said, it's really interesting that your team is called the user experience team. I was like, well, why is that? He said, well, I see user experience as the kind of thing that everybody in the company should care about. It's not just relegated to a single team. And so, he came from Facebook, and at Facebook they don't call their design team user experience, they call them product designers. And it's true, like user experience really isn't, like you can't get great user experience if you've just got a user experience team, just like you can't get great product quality if you create a product quality team. The big joke is that companies hire a product quality team to make the products higher quality, and then the products never get to that state, and so then the product quality team gets fired. Right? You heard that joke? Anyway, so now we've reached a level of maturity where you get a lot of founders who are designers themselves. You get founders who are product people, very product savvy. I would say Larry Page is one of them. Adam D'Angelo certainly is. Mark Zuckerberg. So what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of the future for design? So what does it look like when you're in a company that gets UX and everybody's a UX person? What does that mean for design?
Well, it's kind of like asking what happens if you're in a company that everybody understands about profit and loss and the importance of making a profit so the company can keep going and make the payroll and all that. They all do, but there are still people that are finance people that know stuff and do it better than everybody else. And as I said before, a lot of it is part of the job of the UX person is to get everybody else in the team, the department, the product division, maybe the company, to get it. Because you'll be way more successful and a lot more easily selling things. On the other hand, you'll get maybe less credit and less contribution to any particular thing, but a higher percentage of wins for the company. So I think it's a good trade-off. So what that means is that you look around the company and say, well, if I'm not getting the seat at the table, who is? And you look around and see that in this company, it's the engineering managers who are getting the seat at the table, or it's the product managers, or maybe everybody but the designers, or it varies with the company. The question then is, how do you get that seat at the table? And to get it, you might have to give up some cherished assumptions that you have, like, I'm pure, I only do one thing. Or, the idea has to be mine for it to be any good, that sort of thing. Or just assumptions about other people. Engineers can never do this kind of stuff, they're too left-brained. And so you may have to give up some assumptions in order to do that, but the outcome would be a more successful company and a lot more customer satisfaction with your products, which is what you're in it for.
Well, I think that's a really important point. I think you're talking about, so I think in that scenario, now the design used to be quite marginalized in a lot of places, and I think that's why in my career I've worked at agencies and have my own agency and worked independently, and there are times when there's like, I want more control, so I'm going to do that. It's my own company. I do everything. In a lot of larger companies, design is the lipstick on a pig. It's sort of like, here's the spec, go design it, and then when you're done designing it, throw it over the wall, and then have the developers mess it up for you. And that's a horrible position to be in. And I think what's happening now is that people are going, oh, the UX thing, we should really have them in this room. And I think that's awesome, but it's also daunting, and it's also an incredible challenge, because where, we need to know, you're talking about if everybody knows about profit and loss, there are going to be some experts still. As a UX person, when you're brought into this room with different people, is that you've got to be open to bridging your knowledge for what they do. And you can't go in there, you can't be that goth guy, like the black, like feet on the table, acting, like high and mighty because you're the designer or the creative and you have special skills. You've got to be at the same level as everybody else, and you've got to work to understand what they're trying to get out of the product. And if you don't do that and listen and go back and forth and have a dialogue about it, it doesn't work. And I think it's interesting that you are letting your guard down a bit by saying, I'm not owning everything. This is more of a collaborative work. But I think the benefits there are opening yourself up to insights from all the different disciplines of the company that will, in my opinion, nets a much better design, much better product for the customer in the end.
I think, designers are excellent problem solvers. And problem solving, I think we take for granted how to do it because we're so good at it. And I find that designers are helping teams solve problems more and more. They'll contribute their specific function, but design is about facilitating, getting feedback, integrating feedback, communicating the result. I think, again, if you really look at what you're doing as a designer, at its essence, you're solving a problem and teaching other groups that may not be as capable at problem solving, the structure of problem solving and integrating feedback and intuiting the path forward. I think it's an incredibly important skill for designers to teach other functions. And I think it is important also for designers to challenge themselves to be product owners. Sometimes we have designers that very experienced UXers will take on the role of product lead. We sometimes have product leaders take on the role of UX lead. And I think it's a great trade-off ultimately because you get a richer product. It can go awry if it becomes a question of whether we should have more designers or more product managers, certainly. But in my experience, it's been more about who do we have to put against this set of sprints? Who are the best people to take on the product lead role and the UX lead role? And who are the best problem solvers to really tackle those really complex problems as facilitators?
I think there's many things here, and I could talk about a lot of them, but I'll stick with one, and that's just relationships. We have people who build trust. Like design has come very far in a short period of time recently, from something that was marginalized, looked at as a stylist, to somebody who's integral to the product. And that's come from people who have built trust with others, engineers, PMs, leaders, to be trusted in that position. And more examples of those people are important. I'll give you an example of the person. When I joined Google full-time, there was a great designer there named Sanjay Mavinkar. And Sanjay was the first designer on Google Mobile Maps. And everything Sanjay said, the engineers were like, yeah, let's do it. And the PMs were like, yeah, that's a great idea. And he had built over time before I got there trust, major trust about his intuition, about, he would like debate with them endlessly over like what was the best solution. And he built those relationships and he went to great lengths, and I learned a lot from him because of that. He would find out, hey, are you guys going to work out? I'll go work out with you. And he took that extra step of like spending time people. I remember the PM was going home to Iowa, and he was going to go to the Iowa State Fair. And Sanjay was like, hey, let's go to the fair. So he went on that trip.
There's a fine line between relationship and stalker, but this is...
These are extreme examples, but you get the point, right? The point is we are making progress because there are people like Sanjay who are building trust and trust in the things that he is contributing that made it so like people like me who came in immediately after inherited that trust immediately. I didn't have to earn that because he already earned that. And my job was a lot easier to do that. So I'd say right now we're still in the middle of that phase of design where we're earning trust, and it's up to each one of you to go in there and be that person like Sanjay to open the door for the rest of us and make great things. And of course success and all these other things that when you launch something that does really well, earns you more trust, more respect, go out and do good things.